Are you there, Tanajan?
สวัสดีค่ะทุกคนค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ
Shall I start คุณแอน
Yes. Do others have other questions? Does anybody have something they'd like to raise? Okay, I actually have something. It's become clearer that when we say we talk about understanding for the sake of understanding, that is what is valuable, and understanding for the sake of oneself. And it's if you can, John, it would be good to hear you talk about that, because it seems that it's much more subtle and deep than we can think initially. Understanding for understanding to understand, or studying Dhamma to understand, not just to know for oneself, or for to know for oneself. That it's almost like, as long as there are the asavas of ditthi and ignorance, it's going to be mostly understanding for me. I know, I understand. At the moment of understanding, there would not be ditthi or ignorance, but very soon after, it's so easy to think about it as of, oh, okay, now I get it. I understand that.
I think that when there is the understanding a little bit about actually there's a one, it's not enough. That is not enough, because just thinking about the idea of that. But what about now? We just talk about there's not me, no me at all. But what is there which is not me? So just one word has to be studied so very carefully, wisely, to really appreciate and have confidence of the truth, because the truth is truth, and we are not live in the world of truth quite a long time ago, years and years. And when there's just hearing about no me, there are only different realities. It begin to condition right understanding, to think about it. Know me. So what is that? Usually it's I see, I hear, I want. But what is know me? So what is that? So when there's more understanding, more confidence of the word, what is there is not me at all. So what for? To understand. Because usually there's no understanding all the time from life to life. So what's the use of understanding it as it is? It is the beginning of to be truthful to the truth, the absolute truth. Otherwise, one lives with ignorance, not understanding whatever is there. Just think that we understand this and we understand that and we understand many things, but actually no understanding of the moment when what is there now at all. So what is the truth? What is the truth? The absolute truth. That which is now appearing. No understanding. So we think a lot and we talk a lot, like in Tipitaka, when there's no understanding, it's only the realist talk. See, just talk about this and that. But what is talked about is just here. So very close, no understanding of that. So what is really life? When there is no understanding of the no self, the anothernness of that which is now appearing enough, there must be the ideas for me, I understand. The five khandas, as we know. Before that, we don't know what is khanda, what is that, what is five. But now we learn to understand what is there now. And this is like listening to the Buddha himself as he was in the front of us to talk about just that which is now appearing, to understand it as it is, beginning from seeing, because there is seeing now. No other word like ayatana or tatu or anything at all in the beginning. Just beginning to understand the absolute truth and to have confidence of the truth, little by little. That's why listen, study, for the sake of only understanding, because no I at all. And if there's no understanding of what is there now in this life, what about next life? The same thing. No understanding of that which is now appearing. Just have the idea about it, thinking about it, and think that I know. But actually, it's not panya, it's not right understanding of the truth. That's why, for the sake of understanding, because even understanding is not me, it's only that which understands. The other realities cannot understand at all. So the understanding itself is conditioned to arise and falls away. More and more understanding to penetrate the truth of that which is now, as Buddha taught from his enlightenment, just arising and falling away all the time. Very, very, very subtle that no one can understand it, because even right now, who can know what is there? Okay, there is seeing, no understanding. Even that which experiences, the idea of that which experiences, well, there are so many things around, and the attention is on that which appears as something all the time. So, what is the truth of that which is now appearing? Only that. Because even that moment which sees, there are also other conditions for its arising. We don't know at all about Phassa, about Vedana, about Cetana, and anything. But from hearing and considering, with right understanding, only understanding can let go the idea of self little by little, because it's so very, 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 how can I say, enormous or thick or whatever, no word to understand how much it is from life to life. That's why no expectation for anything at all, just to understand the truth, that the truth has to be the truth, never change. And it can be known only with right understanding. And how come? Without the teachings of the enlightenment. So we begin to understand what is meant by enlightenment, to understand that which is now appearing as it is. But no one can have such understanding like Buddha. His word is so very, very subtle, because just one word can bring more and more understanding, like seeing, talking about it, what is now. It sees, it, not I or anything. It arises and see, that's all. Who knows? Only learning from the word of the Buddha, one word at a time, to know about the truth. Truth of what? If there's nothing, how can there be any truth? But that which is now appearing, what is the truth of that? Who knows? But from hearing, it's conditioned, and it just arises and falls away, and it can never arise again, no return. No one can find it anywhere in samsara in any life at all after it has fallen away. See, this is true. And when right understanding is not enough, as one has heard, there cannot be the eradication of the idea of self, which has been accumulated so long, long time ago. So only understand this can let go the idea of I would try, I would like, how can I, when can I, and so on. Because all depends on conditions. And right understanding is so very, very fine, very, very subtle, how much it knows, see? From hearing, considering, and beginning to understand that which is now appearing by conditions. The most important thing is to understand firmly that actually there's no one at all. Is even right now, it's there. No one can make it rise. So no one can do anything because actually they are all conditioned realities, perform their function unknowingly until the enlightenment of the Buddha. The world is covered up with ignorance all the time and attachment, just want to hear this, to understand that deeper and so on. But actually, who knows at that moment? Because it's all gone. And what is there is not known. That's why don't think or concern about the past or the future. What about the understanding of that which now, as Buddha taught, is real, is a reality. That which experience is not that which is experienced. Only a moment and then gone completely, never to return. Otherwise, there's no way to eradicate wrong understanding and ignorance. Just live at moment of death and then go on until death. That's all. No understanding from life to life. And this is the difference between those who have accumulated some understanding of the teaching and see the benefit, the precious thing in life, and continue on, listen, and panya develops. No I. It takes quite a long time because what is there now and each moment in this life or today has to be known as it is. Otherwise, there's no letting go. So, how can reality appear? Because no understanding, as usual. So, it's just for the sake of no one, but panya, right understanding, can develop to understand the truth. And that moment, no you at all, no one and anyone at all, when reality appear as it is. So clear, because just one at a time. The understanding of the arising and falling away after first vipassana jhana and so on, it takes quite a long time from one stage to another stage. Because even right now, we talk about seeing, which now sees. But what about the understanding that it experiences an object? No one there. And the characteristic of that which experiences does not show up yet as it is. It's covered up as usual. But the word of the teaching is just like turn over that which is there to be known as it is, not as anything at all. When there's no understanding of the truth, it can compare to blindness to the truth, not understanding. So blind, so dark, see, and think that we live, we, I, things all around. But at moment of fast asleep, where are they? Even before death, there can be some understanding from considering and more to know that what we learned now is not enough at all because it's not the actual moment of understanding that which is now experiences, no matter at moment of touching, thinking, smiling, talking, or whatever is there. No one. Dhamma, Citta, that which experience with Cetasika, the mental factor arising together, and Rupa, that which cannot experience. From moment to moment, it's a breaking world. Each moment arising and falling away all the time. To understand, to consider whether it's true or not, is just bring about and keep on study and understanding better and better. Because one begins, there is the beginning of understanding of no one. So the point of studying is to understand the truth of that which is now appearing. That's all. Letting go. The clinging to just wanting to have more understanding of the thing about just that thing to make it clear. It's not clear. It cannot be clear as long as that which is now appearing does not appear as it is. So just for the sake of understanding, which is the reality, only one reality which can understand the truth. So it's the best of all Sankhara Dhamma, the reality which is conditioned and arising from moment to moment.
And I think when understanding do arise, then it's for the sake of understanding moment, but the understanding for me, for example, arise before or after. But when of actual understanding, then understanding for understanding. Would that be right?
Jonathan, excuse me, you've been breaking up. We can hear some and then it breaks up a bit.
I'll try again. Is that better?
Yes.
Right. When awareness and understanding does arise, standing for the sake of understanding, but before that, there may be ideas of understanding, and there may be the as you say, but of actual understanding. Then it is standing for the understanding, because understanding itself is already. As it's developed, then ideas, for me, for example, will decline.
Yes, that makes sense.
But thoughts, if they arise, and can themselves be object of awareness and understanding.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you, Ajahn.
So right understanding understands how much it has to go, how long to understand this very moment, from moment to moment, by conditions, no expectation, and letting go desire and regret about the moment of akusala, not understanding this and that. So it takes quite a long, long time. Unbelievable. So no need to think when will it happen, but right understanding develops the moment when there is understanding of that which is now appearing from consider the truth. No matter when that's another reality arises again. And this is life. We don't know what are there this moment. Many, many things gone before they can be at the moment of thinking about the other thing. Just right now, not know what is there and what's past and what is future. Just in the moments now. Just learn to understand the wisdom of the Buddha, to know him more and better, which one can see that without him, impossible to have the understanding of that which is now appearing at all in any life. So we think that we know the Buddha, but actually not his wisdom yet, until the Panya can understand little and little of that which is now appearing, until its moment of realizing the truth. Then we know from where the Panya has condition to arise.
Yes. Yes, Jonathan, you said something back a few minutes ago, and I didn't quite catch it because things were breaking up again, but you were talking about thinking about as Panya develops. I'm not sure. Was it something about there be more thoughts about Dhamma and more thinking about um, uh, I guess I'm not remembering exactly the context in which
Okay.
we said it.
I think Panya develops, there'll be less and less thoughts of understanding for me, for my sake,
Okay.
and more appreciation of our sake of understanding, because Panya itself is pure, but it has of purifying other thoughts and ideas or tendencies.
Mhm.
So I think was that one didn't have to learn about whether under the understanding, if it arises for the right reason, because it must be for the right reason.
If it
If there is
arises,
awareness and understanding, then question whether for a selfish reason or reason, it must be for the right reason. It can't be for a selfish reason.
it can't, right, it wouldn't arise if it
It wouldn't
were.
arise in the first place. But
That's
there
great.
can be thoughts of, and they
Yes,
may be subtle, but because, that's the accumulation.
yes,
One views the world in perspective. And so kusala that's developed is to some extent being self in one's own mind. But
mhm.
those thoughts and also be and be the object of understanding.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that last little bit?
Those
You're breaking up.
thoughts and can themselves be awareness and understanding and be
Yes,
seen for.
yeah,
They may be they're not very often, or they may be stronger and be quite apparent from.
yes,
Yes.
yes. I think most of the time it's not apparent, but clearly if there is panya arising, it at that as it at that moment of arising, there can be no wishing, or there can be no for the sake of oneself. That would be wishing for it prior,
Right.
or subsequently wishing again, or
Yes.
thinking that
Thought
I have done
having been
this,
developed
things
for
like that.
oneself.
Yes, yes, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's very subtle.
So if an understanding is arising, then that one doesn't have to is it for the right reason?
Right, right. It just arising.
It just
And it has to with the understanding of Zanatta, because that is really
Yes. Yeah.
of understanding. When it's for my being to myself, there is
There's no
an
one.
I that is here. That's why it's understanding. But when understanding develops to understand dharmas, then it has to be those dharmas as anatta, under for the sake of understanding.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you, Ajahn.
John and Sarah, it's not clear what you're saying. It's very broken discussion.
Yes.
So yeah, so I'm wondering if those people who aren't speaking, can you turn your mics off? I noticed this, Pina, you've got yours on, and so maybe if you turn your mics off when you're not speaking, sometimes that helps. It may not, it might be just their connection in Hong Kong, but let's try it and see if that works.
Yeah, that Zita. Now our mic will always, because we have a microphone that has an on-off switch. When if you don't see our off signal, mean we're not off.
It is
Off unless we're speaking. Did that come
Yeah.
through?
Yeah, sort of. Very broken.
Should I try without the mic?
Anyway, while you're trying to fix it. I have a question for Achan. It's regarding Rupa, Achan. And look, I understand that Rupas arise and fall very, very quickly. And in fact, even when sitting here looking out my window, there's trillions of sense door and mind door processes happening. But with the Rupa arising and falling, for example, there's a shirt hanging on the clothesline. I can see it as a shirt. So the outside Rupas are conditioned by temperature only. So what I'm wondering is the object that is seen falls away really quickly, but it's seen again and again. So then it becomes the concept of a shirt. Look, how does this actually work, please?
Can you stop the arising and falling away of Chitta?
No, I cannot.
So this is what you said, right?
Yes, it's more the question of rupas. So the rupas that are seen and fall away, there has to be conditions where the next thing, see, if I'm looking at the one thing, there has to be conditions that make the thing appear to be a whole thing. Because in my mind, if the rupas arise and fall, visible object arises and falls away, a similar visible object must arise to see something as a thing. Would that be correct?
At moment of seeing, what is the object of seeing? Just seeing. Only seeing.
It's just seeing a visible object. One visible object in a galapa is what I understand.
Appear as flower or shirt.
No, it doesn't.
So we learn to understand that at moment when the rupa impinge on the eye base and it lasts for what, how many, we don't have to mind, but it hasn't fallen away yet. So it's there. And who knows that it arises and falls away very, very fast, like chitta, see, but faster than that. Chitta faster than the arising and falling of rupa. So even right now, chitta arises and falling away unknown. So the rupa arises and fall away unknown as well. Right?
Yes, that's correct.
And since the seeing experience only an object, and the next process of seeing while there are bhavanka and mind or processes in between, it doesn't matter at all as long as it doesn't appear, and it cannot appear because no attention, no awareness, no understanding enough. So just the moment of seeing, one moment, and the next moment of seeing, how far apart. And it experienced just only one tiny, unexpectedly, how tiny it is, appear and then fall away. How much ignorant, not understanding the truth that actually can that be seen, but can it be understood? Because when no one come sit in this room, but when someone is coming, the seeing, again, see that as a person. But how many moments are there arising and falling away? If there is the truth of what we have heard, we can understand better and better, little by little, that no one can change the way it appears, but there can be the understanding of how it appears as nimitta. And even rupa, which has fallen away by conditions, it cannot arise again, never to arise, never to return at all. Everything, all are anatta, not the same one, which is experienced this moment as it has that which has experienced previous moment at all. how subtle it is, but how true it is. So panya, right understanding, can begin to develop, to understand that the truth has to be as it is. And it depends on how much panya or understanding of anyone can attain such level of understanding. Sariputta, Mokkallana, Anuruddha, and who are we?
We don't have wisdom like those people.
So we just think about, at that moment of thinking about that, what citta is not known. It's not known. What citta? It's not the seeing, but it's what? And thinking about that, which is not about understanding, seeing right now, until the words, the teaching, conditions more understanding, and it does not go away from what is there now by conditions. So we just talk about awareness, but what level of it? If we listen not carefully, what about understanding? Can it be as the same as the level of listening carefully, wisely to the truth? And when it's just thinking and understanding, right understanding knows that it's not the level of beginning to understand that which is now appearing. It can be at any doorway by conditions, who knows? And when it appears well in vipassana unexpectedly, but it's there as just it is there, that panya has developed enough to understand it, otherwise it cannot show up as it is. As it is. Nimitta as well, see? So we can think about understanding and ignorance, what is more in this moment,
Ignorance is much more than understanding.
until it develops enough to begin to understand when a reality appears at that very moment unexpectedly. And it means what is meant by awareness, direct awareness and direct understanding. Of that, only that. The other things gone, and that which hasn't arisen yet is not there. So don't mind about the past and the future at all. It means that there is the letting go as desire to understand this or that, because it begins to understand that which is now appearing. So short, not long, but it can begin again, arise again, develop again, understanding a little more again, until one is, the panya is so used to the characteristic of not self, only hardness, only sound, only thinking, only listening or hearing. See, each moment, the five khandhas work their function unknowingly, but just in a moment and then fall away. But kusala and akusala, which has arisen, is there in the citta. In the citta, no one can take it away. And it's time for the process of understanding begin and begin and begin.
So, Achan, I think it seems from what you're saying that the emphasis is more on the arising and falling, not so much the arising of a rupa. Example, that one visible object falls away, never to come back again. But there must be something similar happens again and again. A similar rupa, visible object. Yeah, well, of course. A similar visible object arises and falls away again, which then builds up this concept of a shirt. But I think that's sort of, I'm getting away from what you're saying is that the understanding needs to develop to understand the arising and falling away, not what comes after, but that moment of arising and falling needs to be known.
So, what is the noble truth? The first one, dukkha, ariya satya. No matter how much we talk about the arising and falling away, but when it does not show up as it is now, can be letting go of the self. But if there's no understanding of the characteristic of just only one characteristic of a reality, can there be more understanding of it as it is to be understood that it cannot be taken for self? But if all realities do not arise and fall away, how can there be the understanding of the arising and falling away? So the truth is that what is now appearing in truth is not there anymore. But no understanding of even what is there, to distinction between the reality which experiences and that which is experienced. Just any time, there must be that which is experienced and that which experiences it. No understanding of these two characteristics yet. So how can there be the understanding of no one, no thing? It's only different realities. And there can be only one as object, not two at a time. Otherwise it cannot be clear. For example, at moment when reality, which experiences, is there as object of understanding of its characteristic, there cannot be anything else. But no thought about whether it is this or that, because actually no time, because the moment of experiencing directly directly understanding the truth right then. See, no word, but understanding is there. And can it be the moment of thinking about sampatichana, santirana, and so on? Not at all. About any conditions? Not at all. Only that reality which appears, which hasn't been showed up at all. It's there by conditions. Before there can be the moment of penetrating the arising and falling away. By conditions, it shows up to panya only, not to the eye who tries so hard to experience it. But the understanding of nothing is permanent can bring about no self, because seeing is not hearing, and the rupa is not the Dhamma. And when the rupa is not there, where is it? When it does not appear, can it be the object of understanding? Only thinking about there must be rupas anywhere when there are right conditions for their arising, that's all. But what about that which is now appearing? The characteristic which is not anything and no one at all is there. No one who sees and no thing which is seen at all. It does not appear as it is yet one by one. So how can there be the moment of directly experience, the arising and falling away of just only one reality as nimitta? See how deep it is, how subtle it is. Even that is nimitta. To learn more, to understand more, to condition the letting go, the wrong understanding and ignorance little by little, until it's right time for Sariputta. After hearing Asashi, he became Sotapanna. The conditions are ready at the right time. Who knows? Nobody knows beforehand at all. So this is time to for panya to develop right understanding, little by little. And the test, the proof is that how much it develops is this very moment. Nobody can tell for the others at all. It's not going to the teacher and ask in the meditation center how much understanding is there. That is not the truth. It's not the teachings of the enlightened one.
Thank you, Achan. That's wonderful, especially when you brought in at that time about the First Noble Truth. It's wonderful. Thank you so much.
How much appreciate I have when I heard this, but I didn't say out anything at all, anytime. Otherwise, it have to be each moment of understanding.
You mean of the individual's understanding?
Or anytime. It's there as it is.
Yes, yes, I understand. Thank you so much.
And this is the beginning of understanding how much profoundness of the teachings of the Buddha and the subtlety of what is now appearing, because we begin to understand the truth of each word of the Buddha. Just the word Dhamma, arising and falling away, no one, all then, here, now.
And when there is some intellectual understanding, some little thing goes click, there's a lot of clinging on to it that I want to hang on to that little bit of understanding. But as it's always said, it's just lopa clinging, and any understanding arises and falls away just like everything else, like the rupas that I've just been talking about. It's also impermanent. First Noble Truth, as you say.
Until Lopa is there to be object of understanding, because it's always there almost all the time, but it's not known until it's known. So it's the moment of letting go Lopa.
And that letting go of lopa can only happen because of panya. It's like you said before, only understanding can let go. So I can't let go. I just cling on more and more, but only understanding the truth can let go.
If Panya does not understand Lopa yet, can it let go Lopa?
No.
It's there. See, so Lopa is there, unknown, until its moment of it appears little by little or show up little by little for Panya to understand more and more how crafty it is.
That's a good word to use, crafty. Yes, very crafty.
Otherwise, there cannot be life after life, on and on and on, non-stop, without it. Even Lopa has to be known, see. So this moment is the Lopa. Who knows when it does not appear? So only that which is now appearing can be object of studying and beginning to learn about the truth of it little by little until it show up. Because right understanding understand better and better, more and more, clear and clear, little by little.
And you spoke about that object which appears, can be anything, can be Lopa, can be visible object, can be anything.
Unexpectedly.
Yes, unexpectedly, completely unexpectedly.
And that is the characteristic of anatta. And the understanding can begin to understand the anatterness. So not expect for anything to happen, not just situation, but each moment.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Achan. That's wonderful.
Anatta is there all the time. It's on right understanding to understand it or not. Only that. And the word of truth can bring about more considering wisely until it develops enough to let go one by one, little by little, at moment of understanding it only. So this moment is the moment for letting go to develop.
So we could say this moment and this moment and this moment, because they're arising and falling so quickly. So any moment can be known if there's panya to know it.
Right. Not at the moment. See, because that is gone, and that which hasn't arisen yet, not arisen yet, it cannot be known. Only that which is there now. And Panya begins to know the difference between intellectual understanding and direct understanding with awareness. And awareness is very natural. As now, there is hardness, there is touching, no understanding, there is touching all the time, as touching something and I touch. But in truth, when Panya is there, it begins to understand. Even just a short moment, but it's different from moment of not understand that which is touched or appears. For example, very natural. So Panya has to be there. Otherwise, it's not the beginning of the development of direct awareness with direct understanding of that, which is now appearing. No selection, unexpectedly. To learn to understand the truth of what we have learned, no one there. Natural life, what is there is conditioned. It depends on whether there is understanding of it or not, depending on conditions. So at moment of right awareness with right understanding, Panya knows the anatterness, uncontrollable, unexpected moment by conditions only. As we have learned and talked about, exactly the same as what we're talking about now.
Ajahn, then the uncontrollability, unexpectedness you mentioned, I think we could say that dhammas come and go by their own conditions. And this is, as you say, this is the aspect of anattanness of as a characteristic of whatever is appearing at the present moment.
Yes. It can be at any moment, even right now. Unexpected thought, unexpected seeing, unexpected hearing. And nothingness is there, but without understanding, it cannot show up as it is.
And because it's always the nimitta of the reality which appears or is understood, we don't have to think about how many countless rupas, how many visible objects have arisen and fallen away, or whether each visible object is the same or different or a little bit different, because it's the nimitta of the reality which appears and is understood now.
Just to let you two know, the sound is much better, but occasional breakup, but a lot better than it was. So thanks for the...
Thanks for that indication. I was about to ask.
We switched to another computer, but just put your finger up if it's breaking up so we know, and then I can, or we can pause.
As much as we loved the background of the Hong Kong harbor, this works better.
Whatever works. We all have computer glitches from time to time.
And this too is anatta.
Yeah, talk about unexpectedness. When the computer breaks down.
More clinging, more ignorance, but understanding can be at any time at all. Tadao, Lucas, Roti, anyone else have anything, any topics they want to bring up?
Hello. I often hear anatta, non-self. But in my case, if I have awareness, I should have a fear when I hear anatta. Then it means no body and no one. And when I think about no one or nobody here, instead of having panya, I have dosa. I have a fear that there is no one in this world. How can I cope with such fear? I know that it's aksara and it's nothing to do with panya, but I cannot help that I often have fear of seeing nobody or non-self.
But do you fear of seeing?
Occasionally, not all the time, but I have a fear.
So fear is a reality, right?
Yes.
Is there fear now?
No.
So why do you fear? It's not now.
Not
Or
all
even
the
it arises there by conditions, that's all. And then it's gone,
Yeah.
never to return. To understand doesn't bring about fear, because the truth is that only that you don't have to do anything at all. Just the way it is, okay, the way it is as you are conditioned to be in each moment, as seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, but they are all gone. The truth is that, but it's still there, no fear, as long as it's there by conditions. Without condition, there cannot be anything arise. So if you fear to lose anything, you don't have to fear, because there are still conditions for anything to arise. But do you fear about the ignorance, not understanding the truth? It's so fearful, because it brings more and more wrong understanding and wrong deeds, wrong speech, and so on, which is dangerous at moment when it's there, and also it brings about other moment of dangerous too, danger to the other too, not only to yourself. Do you fear that?
Yeah, I can understand it.
So just understand until understand is enough to understand more about that. The truth is this: you don't have to fear death, because there must be life after this instantly. No fear, seeing again, thinking again, like again, dislike again, keep on going on and on and on. No, less attachment brings more attachment.
Yeah, I can see that fear, the original fear is attachment to myself.
And you don't have to force not to fear.
Oh,
It's not you, but when it's there, that is the characteristic of a reality which nobody can change. By accumulation, it has to be that level of fear. By conditions, even fear has different stage and level too, and it's there only very shortly too, like other moments. So the truth is that just be yourself, enjoy yourself, but more understanding of the truth, and that's the way it has to be. No one can force one to let go the idea of self or to attain enlightenment, but only understanding little by little. Life is as usual, because all are conditioned. Do you fear present moment?
which moment?
Pleasant moment.
Oh,
Exactly the same like other moment. Just be there so short and then gone. No fear, because no understanding, because fear is ignorance. It's conditioned by ignorance. Fear of that which is not more, just in a very short moment and then gone. No need to fear, it's gone. And this is panya, right understanding of the truth. But when it's not strong enough, there must be condition for all akusala dhammas, not only fear. Ignorance, see, not understanding the truth. No fear of that. But it's so dangerous, because when it's there, there's attachment to that which is there, because not understanding the truth of it instantly. Like life, you don't want to lose life, to not having that and that again. But actually, no need, it's there by conditions.
yeah. When I asked you about death, Marana, you gave me a very good answer. And since then, I do not have much fear of encountering with death. But from time to time, when I'm sort of developing sati, somehow it's hard to imagine that there is no body and no one. And in that occasion, I have some kind of fear.
What do you mean by sati?
Awareness, very weak level of awareness.
What do you mean by that? Awareness?
Just
What is the object of awareness right then, at that very moment? You use the word awareness.
it's not like nama and rupa. It's more like awareness at each different senses, doorways.
Really? Is that right understanding of the object which it is aware of?
No, it's very hard to become aware of these individual.
Can we say that self is thinking,
Yes.
not being aware at all? That's why we have to study each word about each reality, because sometimes they are quite very similar, or sometimes it's kusala and not akusala, and sometimes it is akusala, not kusala. But if we don't understand it clearly, they're all mixed up. Kusala and vipaka and everything all at once, like now. See, that's why even the word sati is used only when it arises to be kusala. It cannot be a kusala. It's not being aware of fear with the I think that fear is there, I know fear. But to understand it means it has its characteristic, its proper characteristic, and that characteristic cannot be changed. No one can make it arise, but it's there to be known as just it is as it is, not anyone at all. Because at that moment, the I fear, see, but fear is not I. Because of ignorance and taking that object as me, as I. Fear is fear. It's conditioned to arise in false way, like attachment, aversion, and seeing and anything right now. Each has its own characteristic. So whenever we use the word awareness, it is wholesome cetasika. It arises with moment of wholesomeness, with other wholesome reality, not only sati. There must be hiri and ottappa and other realities arising together. Otherwise, it cannot arise. To learn more about it, can let go the idea of self, but cannot let go of fear, because fear has conditions to arise to be known as not anything else, only that characteristic. To understand the characteristic of each reality can lead to more understanding of no self. Not me. Fear cannot be attachment. Fear cannot be mana. Fear cannot be hiri. Fear cannot be ottappa. See, each has its own characteristic to be studied to know the truth of it. From hearing and considering and beginning to learn to understand more about no one, no self at all. Otherwise, the self is there at moment of the arising of five khandhas and four namakhandhas together.
Yes, self is there all the time.
Not just the moment of fear, but moment of seeing right now too.
Yes.
In the moment. That's why to understand it as it is letting go that it is me or I. But understanding is not enough. because the accumulation of I is very much accumulated, so strong that one knows that only hearing cannot stop attachment, aversion, or anything at all. It is. It has its condition for its arising no matter what. This is the understanding of Dhamma. See, only that very moment it begins to understand. And the other moment, when it's not there, life goes on as usual until it's time to listen, to think about it a little more, a little more. Otherwise, it cannot develop. Panya can develop. So the understanding doesn't mean to stop the way Dhamma is, but to understand the way it is, to let go the idea of self, that like or dislike it so much, but it can be a little more, less. Like this, it is this moment. And if you like to sleep, why not like to have such moment? Because the moment of birth and bhavanka and death has the same object, unknown. Just now, anytime. But panya or akusala are accumulated a lot.
Yeah, I can see that aksara and the idea of self is very thickly accumulated. And it's not easy to eliminate the idea of self, even momentarily.
So live to understand the truth of kusala and akusala of no self, understanding the conditions. So when it's there, they can be conditioned to understand it as it is, as one has learned.
Yes, I can agree with you. And I have lots of time to develop kusala, but it's not easy to develop kusala. And when I'm not doing anything, it's still difficult to develop kusala.
So know you to have kusala or akusala. They are there by their proper conditions. No time to set to have such and such, and all unexpected, because there's no one who can arrange or change the way it is at all. Just to understand. At moment of getting angry, the moment of understanding that moment is better than try not to have it.
In my case, I do not have much anger. I do not have domanassa. But I think I have lots of ignorance.
So ignorance is ignorance at moment when it cannot understand the truth. But at moment of understanding, it's not ignorance, no you. But panya, right understanding, can understand what is right and what is wrong. To have the idea of I is wrong because there's no I, there are only different realities conditioned to arise and fall away. And when it's wrong, I cannot do this, I cannot understand that at a certain time. So that is the wrong understanding. That's why from hearing and considering, it can condition more understanding little by little to let go of the self from the five khandas. Not just one khanda, but all five. And not only one moment, whatever in a day by conditions.
Okay.
Means more understanding of no one.
Okay. Very good advice. Thank you very much.
Tadao, I just have a quick question. When you think of my body, nobody, and you have the fear, what is the idea of nobody that you have at that time?
Not all the time, but occasionally I have a fear. When I think there is no actual body here, somehow it shows my strong clinging to this body.
So when you say no actual body here, what do you mean by that? Because there are rupas, aren't there, that are taken for the body?
Yeah, but it's not just like individual rupas. I'm taking a bunch of rupas as an aggregate of our body here and now. And when I think that there is no such thing as actual body, then it somehow frightened me.
But when you say no such thing as actual body, there are still the rupas that are arising and falling away all the time, conditioned by karma, etc.
Yeah, I can see it. I can intellectually think about that. There is no actual body here. But when I think it's due to my clinging to myself. I take my body as me. And when there is some kind of awareness that there is no such thing as body, then it somehow caused me to have some kind of fear.
I think it's similar to the discussion at the beginning about understanding for the sake of understanding and understanding for oneself. When one thinks about having understanding for oneself, actually it's just thinking about understanding, because there's the fantasy of myself that the understanding is for. So it's not true understanding. And it's the same with sati, when it's the idea of I'm developing sati, or I have sati, and then there's no body, and then there's fear. Is it really true sati? Because there's clinging to the idea of one's body, to oneself. And that's why there's fear or dosa when we hear about no self or no body, because of the clinging and the fantasy that there is a self, that there can be understanding or sati for, but actually there is no self, there is no body. But the fear, because the clinging is conditioned, the wrong idea of self is conditioned, the fear is conditioned, and with the fear there must be domanassa at those moments too. So because it's a kind of dosa also, and it has to be like that. It can't be anything different because it's conditioned that way. So it's not a matter of trying not to have fear or not clinging to oneself, but understand that that is just the reality. Actually, it's just fear for a moment and then gone. Not my fear, not my clinging. They're just dharmas. And it's only the understanding that they are just dharmas which gradually will lead to less clinging to oneself or one's body and less fear about losing it. But that's why Ajahn asked, what is the sati aware of? Because when it's the idea of my awareness or I'm developing sati, is it really any sati? What about seeing now? Is there any awareness of seeing as just a dharma fear as just a Dhamma? Or is it my sati and my fear again?
Yeah, it's not really sati. It's more like a type of thinking.
It's just thinking with clinging to the idea of I'm having sati, like conventional ideas people have that when they move carefully and lift the pen slowly that they have sati, but actually it's just clinging to oneself. It's not anything to do with the wholesome characteristic of sati. So when you say it's difficult to develop kusala even when you have time, the point is it's not I who can develop kusala or I who can have sati, and it doesn't depend on how much free time or little free time one has. It depends on the understanding at this very moment. So at this very moment, no one who can develop kusala, no one who can have sati. If there are conditions for kindness or understanding, it arises and it's gone. If there are no conditions, it doesn't. But the clinging to having understanding or having kusala for oneself just conditions more expectations and more disappointments and more dosa of any kind when it's not the way we'd like it to be.
Yeah, it amazed me.
And I think we need to distinguish the concept of body or table or computer from the clinging or attachment or the idea of a permanent essence. Because just to have the idea of something as a concept does not necessarily come with an idea of permanence or self. So the more there is the idea of a self, then I guess the more likely it is that body is taken as part of that. But the main thing is, as Ajahn has stressed, the development of awareness and understanding of any reality, because realities can be seen as gradually as uncontrollable and arising unexpectedly. And that is the aspect of no self or anatta as it applies to characteristic of reality. And it is from the development of that understanding that idea of self comes to be gradually reduced. So one can't, as it were, jump ahead of the stage of development of understanding and try to see things in a certain way that one's developed understanding is not yet capable of appreciating.
One thing which amazed me is that I have so much free time, but I can see that in my daily life, moments of kusala are very limited. And I wonder why there aren't many kusalas in my life.
Because the ignorance and attachment have been accumulated for so long. And it's a wrong idea if one thinks that the more free time in a day, that which we conventionally call free time, the more conditions for understanding. Like I remember in the old days, some people thought by being a monk, it would be a condition for more understanding of the Dhamma because there would be more free time to study. But having time to study, having time to be on one's own, it's not the condition for understanding. The condition for understanding is the hearing now, the wise considering now about realities, like about any khandha now, any reality which arises and falls away and is not self, not worth clinging to, no body to be found. So it comes back to the understanding and the accumulation of understanding, not the conventional situation like how many hours one is working, or which place one is living in, or whether one is with family or without family. It's the understanding at this very moment that is the condition. Otherwise, it's self again, thinking that one can set up the right situation, the right conditions, and then there's disappointment when the kusala arises, because actually it's just thinking of oneself, trying to have kusala for oneself.
Oh, Sarah, can I ask you a question about virya? This is a well-discussed topic, but I never understand what virya is. Because I think myself as the laziest person in this world. And I cannot help, I'm very lazy. So I'd like to know what virya is.
What about when there is fear or laziness? Is there virya at those moments too?
No.
Yes, because it can be kusala virya or akusala virya, vipaka virya, kiriya virya. So at any of those moments of fear or lazy, there is virya. Yeah? Effort to be lazy. So virya is a cetasika that arises with most citas, apart from seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching, and other ahetuka citas. So virya is there at almost every moment, every kusala moment, every akusala moment. Virya is there, energetic to be wholesome or to be unwholesome, or patient to be kusala, or patient to be akusala too.
But I'm talking about kusala virya.
Right.
And this is also to do with desire. But how can I have kusala virya often?
I can't hear you, Tadao. Did you finish?
Yeah.
Can anyone have kusala virya? Can anyone make kusala virya arise?
There may be a way to develop kusala virya.
Is there a way for anyone to develop it? Like, can anyone have sati? Can anyone develop sati? Can anyone develop virya? Can anyone develop understanding? Can anyone develop anything?
No, there is no one who
Right.
can develop kusala virya.
And when there is wishing to develop kusala virya, then it's more lobha, more clinging to self, more disappointment, more domanassa when it's not the way one would like it to be. So it's, no matter it's kusala virya or akusala virya, it's conditioned, not my virya, not anything I can do or I can develop. At moments of kusala, at moment of understanding, the virya, the kusala virya must be there anyway.
Okay.
When there is more kusala, there is more kusala virya, because kusala virya only arises with kusala citta. So the question, how can I have more virya, is how can I have more kusala virya, is really asking how can I have more kusala.
Yeah, my problem is not having many kusalas in my life.
I think the problem is the idea that it's my problem, and it's the idea of my kusala and my sati and my development and my dosa. This is the real problem.
Yeah.
Common problem, the idea that whatever arises belongs to me. It's not the understanding which Ajahn mentioned, that actually there are just different khandas, different nama khandas and rupa khandas arising and falling away, each one conditioned, not belonging to anyone at all.
And it happens in accordance with the conditioned tendencies that have been accumulated and other conditions.
Yeah, I can see it. Accumulation plays a very strong role in our daily life or in our life.
And those accumulations are generally unknown. I mean, of course, when they arise, they can be the object of understanding, but the accumulated tendencies that are latent are unknown, cannot be known to us. So why should we be surprised if there's more of this and less of that than we would like there to be?
And we always think the problem is the accumulation, our accumulation of dosa or fear or clinging, but actually it's the not understanding, the ignorance, and especially the wrong view now. That is the real problem. Because as Ajahn also mentioned, if fear arises, better to understand fear as not self than to have no fear. Whatever arises is just a Dhamma that can be understood. So it's not so much the fear that's a problem, but the taking it for my fear and trying to change it, trying to stop it, trying to have more kusala, thinking there is an I that can control life and accumulations, instead of understanding that whatever arises is just by its own conditions and gone instantly.
Okay, very good, very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Tadao.
Thank you. I have a question to Kunsuchin. In suttas, it is often said that we should have a very simple life, but for the development of wisdom, is it important to have a sort of a simple life or a life without much attachment?
Would you like to follow the word or to understand the truth of it?
Sando,
Because when you heard about this and you think, well, better have simple life, is there some idea
yeah,
you follow? But that is not understanding of reality. It's not me or not self at all. Because it is attachment, unseen all the time, unknown all the time. But it is almost every moment in life. No understanding. That's why it's so subtle that it can be the second noble truth to be letting go. Otherwise, it's the hinder the understanding of that which is now appearing, because it's there attached to that. So it ignore or no attention, no awareness to the truth that what is there is gone. And then only that which is there gone too. And this is so true, and it takes quite a long time to develop right understanding to the truth of it. For example, just a moment ago, you talk about virya. Would you like to experience virya? Or would you like just to hear about it? Or would you like to have more virya of kusala? See, it's not just no matter what you think about, just want to hear this and that, but to find out the truth of it, of that very moment. What is that? Is it possible to experience vidya, to know it, or just heard about it? It's there. and understand that it has to be there because of conditions for such and such different moment. And it brings just like the same question as this question. See, what is this question about? Simple life. See, viriya, to try to have that or not. No understanding that what is there as not self. While the point, the absolute truth, is to develop understanding of no one at all, no matter in what situation, simple life or luxury life or happy life or unhappy life, whatever is there. What is there? Is there anyone? Or it's only condition and fall away as soon as it has arisen. So very fast, very rapidly, unknown. And this is truth. So to understand the truth, one has to be so truthful to the truth, to know that can anyone experience viriya or just talk about it or know about it a little more, that whether it is kusala or akusala viriya, or what citta arises with viriya and what citta does not arise with viriya. But what about now? If it's not known yet, how can whatever we're talking about can appear as the object of understanding that we have learned about it? It's like talking about someone that haven't met that person at all. So it's just only imagining about that person to be such and such, simple life or luxury life or happy life. See, all depends on a moment as it is. So it's not just learn to think about it and understand it just from hearing about it. But the point is to understand the truth no matter what we heard about. Citta, to understand it. Is that citta now? And what is citta? And what is cetasika? We don't have to name or call it, but we learn to understand the moment when it is there. No word. For example, anger is there. We need to say that it is cetasika, it's unwholesome cetasika, it's conditioned by such and such, because it's time to understand that from hearing. The intellectual understanding is enough to condition moment of understanding it as we have learned. But now there is seeing, no understanding as we have heard. Viriya, no understanding of that which heard, because trying to think about viriya while viriya does not appear. And just learn to understand what for, to know when it's there. But it doesn't mean that when will it be there? How can I make it there? Shall I live simple life? This is only thinking about life. What about what is sin? Would you like to see this and that at will? Impossible. What is sin is there already by condition. Simple life or luxury life is there by condition. What is known is that there is no one at all. This is the point of studying, learning the truth about what is now as it is, to have no ignorance more as usual, to begin to understand the truth before there can be more and more deep understanding of that which now appearing as it's not there anymore until only one reality is the object by conditions. And we do not have to name it right awareness or right understanding, direct awareness or direct understanding, because it's there already, different from other moments. And this is the way Panya developed, to have it arise by understanding enough to understand the moment when it's there. Because before that, there's no moment of understanding it, as when there is awareness of only that characteristic. So when we talk about simple life, what is that?
Life which doesn't have many opportunities for having desire, attachment.
So at that moment, is there anyone, anything, or only the reality which is attached, because attachment performs its function of attached to anything, no matter what. What it cannot attach to is only the Lokutara-Dhamma, not getting near the Lokutara-Dhamma at all. So it cannot be attached to that. But whatever is there can be object of attachment depending on condition, whether it is akusala, dosa, or other kind of akusala. But we don't have to name or call it because its characteristic is there. Nobody can change. So now it's not thinking about seeing as that was experiencing, but no one can stop thinking about it. Even that can bring about more close, a little closer to the moment of seeing, little by little. Otherwise, if we don't have thought about it at all, how can it be the object of understanding? We think so much about everything outside, far away from this moment. And how come to be the moment of beginning to understanding it, even a little, even thinking in word, it doesn't matter because whatever is there by conditions, no need to regret at all. But understanding is there, as it's not direct awareness yet, direct understanding yet. And when it's there, right understanding, see the difference between moment of direct awareness and just thinking about it. As simple life, see, at moment when hardness appears, is hardness simple life or luxury life or happy life or whatever? No thing at all. Only that which is hard, no matter in heaven or animal world of human being or in hell, see, it's there as it is. So right understanding begin to see the difference between ignorance and right understanding.
Okay, so Kunsujin, you are basically saying that don't set up many rules in our daily life.
Can you?
I tend to.
Wasting time thinking about that, or each moment can be understood better and better, little by little, when one sees the absolute truth of the truth, the absolute truth.
Okay, I've got it.
Just one further comment, Tadao. I would say it's not so much a matter of not setting rules in daily life, but not setting rules about the development of understanding. Because we shouldn't think that there can't be order to our daily life at all, but it's having the idea that the development of understanding can be influenced by doing this or doing that, or acting in this way, or living a more simple life, or something like that. So it's in that context that the setting of rules is not going to bring a positive result. It will bring the opposite.
And when there is clinging, can it really be referred to as simple life? Like we may be alone in the room with our Dhamma books, but when it's with clinging to not having any interruptions, to just studying Dhamma, no disturbances. Is it simple, that moment of clinging? So what is simple?
Yeah, it's a type of life I cherish very much.
With clinging or with understanding?
Yeah, it's attachment.
Yes.
I can't help.
It's so common, but it's good not to fool ourselves. I mean, I understand. I remember once saying to Ajahn a long time ago that what I really love is just to have a bit of quiet time, just to read books or edit the Dhamma recordings. It seems that it's so good and wholesome. But she replied, just clinging to oneself, wishing to have that, what you call simple life, or that special time, just only with one's Dharma books, for example. So clinging all the time.
Yeah, but it also has to do with one's accumulation.
Yes. And it's good to know the accumulation, like even at this moment, if there's clinging to listening to Dhamma, that's the accumulation. It's different from moments of understanding Dhamma, understanding fear, understanding clinging. So at this moment, no matter it's clinging, no matter it's fear, no matter it's understanding, it is the accumulation for that moment, and then gone, and then the next accumulation. Otherwise, we justify, we say, oh, well, it's my accumulations to just be alone and have the simple life and not have any interruptions. But what about understanding the clinging to that being one's accumulation?
Yeah, very strong clinging. I can see it.
And that's why one's distressed or disturbed when it's not the way one would like it, when there are interruptions, or when we need to go out to help others, or it's time to shop or do chores. This is daily life. So clinging most of the day, clinging to oneself, clinging to one's simple life, clinging to having sati, clinging to whatever is seen or heard. Better to know it and better to understand that it's just condition and has to be like that, and it's gone. Actually, it's not my clinging at all.
Yeah, I can see it. You are right. Jonathan, I have a question. This is totally different thing, but about vision, seeing. What we see as dimension, it's associated with dimensionality. So in conventional sense, our vision is three-dimensional. And if we include Einstein's time, then it's four-dimensional. What I'd like to ask is, how about seeing? Is it associated with any kind of dimensionality or not? That's what I'd like to ask.
Seeing just experiences visible object at that moment. So it doesn't know anything about the object being experienced. Any idea of conventional shape or form or distance is a product of the thinking that follows after the moments of seeing.
So it's a pure thinking.
Well, obviously, at the moment of just experiencing visible object, can there be any dimension or time?
Probably not.
Or place or distance?
Mm.
Mm.
So it's a product of the mind.
It's conceptualization, yes, of what has been seen.
Mm. Okay. Now I have a question to Kunsu Chin. I'd like to know about a sense of bodily balance. From time to time, I fall down because I lose my sense of bodily balance. And I'm wondering whether a sense of balance is concept or more like a Paramata Dhamma.
Is it real?
Yeah, it's real. I fall down and hurt myself.
Okay. When it's real, through what doorway it is experienced?
I think it's through either ways.
What is seen?
What is seen becomes very unstable.
It's not the balance of the body, right?
Yeah,
So why think about that, which is not seen?
yeah, it's not seen, but seeing is important to keep a balance.
So it's only the idea of balance of the body, see, but no reality.
Ah,
Hearing.
ah. So it's a conceptual thing.
Yes, so what is the absolute truth is there to be known, not that it's the object of theory thinking about this and that from someone's word.
Mm. Okay, good enough.
Is there less clinging to the self?
No,
Not
clean.
enough, not enough. That's why listening more, because when you have free time and you understand that if there's no hearing, reading, and considering about the words, the truth of it, there cannot be understanding. And this will take time to study and read and just thinking about it,
Yes.
not other things else.
Mm.
The best moment in life is there enough for that very moment. Otherwise, who know what next moment would be? It can be death anytime.
Oh, yeah. Now I can see that death comes at any moment.
Yes, like Bhavanka after each process. Instead of Bhavanka, it can be death
Yeah,
anytime by
yeah,
conditions. And then seeing again, life again, continue on, uncontrollable.
yes,
And the truth is now that whatever situation we think about, whether it's experiencing three-dimensional objects or balance and falling over or living simple life or going shopping, whatever the circumstances, in truth, there are just different moments of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking about different experiences. So countless moments of seeing, countless moments of touching tangible objects, and countless moments of thinking to have the idea of a body falling over. But actually, there are just different dharmas arising and falling away. And we live in a fantasy world thinking about all these different ideas and wondering what about this situation or that situation. But it's still just seeing now, which just sees what is visible object, sees it exactly as it is. And then countless moments of thinking about whether it's three-dimensional or whether it's a body or this or that. And the same for the experience of each reality.
yeah, you're right.
In Tadao, you're asking about dimensions just a moment ago. This is just another aspect, and of course Jonathan has alluded to this, just another aspect of papancha. There's been a lot of talk and dialogue online about this concept of papancha, this continual sense of proliferation, and dimensionality is just another aspect of that.
Okay.
But Sundara, don't Arahatas also think in terms of distance and height?
Yeah, they don't. That's of course they do. That's a rhetorical question, Kunsukin. Yes, of course they do, but that's not papancha. When Arahatas think, there is not this. They understand the nature of reality. There is no ditti. Mostly when people think about these different aspects of dimensionality and that's scientific, so-called scientific framework, there is this continual sense of, of papancha. I'm just trying to give you some better examples. We can think in these ways, but they are, I guess I would say that simply, there's the Arahata has deep understanding. And of course, as we know, the Buddha, that's the nature of life. We must think in concepts, otherwise we can't navigate our way through life. It's impossible otherwise. That's how we consider the Dhamma. That's how we communicate with each other, etc., etc., etc. So, I don't think that's a particularly reasonable analogy to make there between Arahatas. And as we know, of course, papancha relates to tanha, ditti, and mana. So, and there's some very good examples. I've often been following some of the discussions that's been going on online with regards to papancha. I must say, John, he's been incredibly, what I would say, incredibly patient and thorough, and trying to be as helpful as he can be. I'm really admiring of that. But papancha in the text is very clear as far as I read it. And there's two very good examples that I will share online later on from the Dhammapada about this nature of papancha. So we will all, and as we know, Arahatas don't have any, of course they cannot have any tanha, and of course they cannot have any ditti, and of course they cannot have any mana. So it's not, and papancha will always be to do with akusala. So Arahatas don't have any akusala.
So Sundara, what is your point?
Well, I thought I'd made that quite clear, but however, what I was saying was that you're asking about dimensionality and the different aspects from what seemed to be kind of scientific kind of point of view or a worldly kind of point of view. And I thought Jonathan answered your question really well. So what I was trying to say was, then I said this is just this proliferation, this continual building upon different ideas, non-Dhamma ideas, involves a lot of akusala, and it's not helpful and not conducive to the Dhamma. So my point was that's what it is. That these sometimes this aspect of whether when we come down to dimensionality or any of those other kind of concepts, it's usually just, well, invariably, just another aspect of papancha, another type of akusala. And people sometimes justify this in their own way, if they perhaps even might be talking about Dhamma, but I think Jonathan said the reality that appears now is nothing to do with papancha. It's about understanding what appears. So I hope that's, and then Kunsu Kin asked the question there about, well, what about Arahatas? They must consider, they must think, and of course they do, but they do not have tanha, ditti, or mana. So it can't be called papancha. They'll think in their own ways as they must, as we all must, whether we're patujana or have experienced different levels of the paths. We must think. that's what we have to do to navigate our way in life, to think, to move, to whatever we need to do. We're always thinking. So, essentially my point was that there is thinking which an arahata has, and there is thinking that a worldly person does, and it's usually, and what a worldly person does is a lot of akusala, tremendous amount of akusala all the time. When there's forgetfulness about the realities which appear, and then even then after that, there's always thinking with different levels of akusala. So the point I was just trying to make was that many of these types of questions are usually based upon some type of misunderstanding about the Dhamma often. So, people will, we can conceptualize in trillions and trillions of sorts of ways. And most of those ways are very, very unhelpful, mostly, especially in terms of the Dhamma.
So the conceptualization will continue, will always be there, but the unwholesome aspect, unwholesome tendencies will gradually become eradicated, become less as understanding is more developed.
Yeah, sure.
Just a few minutes. So, John, do you have anything else you would like to add before we finish?
Your microphone isn't on, John. Sorry, Ajahn, we're not hearing you.
Sorry again. Yep. Now, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Yes.
We can hear it.
We can hear you.
Yeah. I think that the education of the idea of self is quite very difficult because of ignorance of whatever is now appearing. That's why the way to pay respect to truth is to study carefully and consider and reconsider again about what is there now. Otherwise, what we have learned is in the book or sometimes in our head, but it's not at this very moment until the understanding has to be the understanding of truth of that which is now appearing, from considering, from intellectual understanding, no matter on what subject about any reality, can bring about a little more understanding as no self. This is the point, not to follow the way it's explained by the high monk in the Tipitaka, but to understand how much there can be understanding. The first point is listen to the truth of no self, to condition the moment of direct awareness of this moment. Only that. Because who can choose the way one is, what one's life is to be or is not be? Because by conditions, no matter its luxury, its attachment, or whatever, it's there only to show up as it is, to panya only, to right understanding. That's why when there's no understanding, it's gone without understanding the truth of it. That's all. To see the precious moment in life, no matter this life or any life, to be able to understand the truth to very little until it's more enough to experience directly the truth by conditions, to have more confidence of anothernness. So I appreciate all your interest and saddha and confidence to understand the truth. So, Dika,
Sawadika,
John,
Anumodana.
thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye
See you
bye.
next time. Bye.